Welcome back to the Boneyard Podcast, everybody. This is your host, Jared Shafford, along with my good friend,
Knowledgeable soul.
Josh. How we doing, my friend?
Doing great. Doing great. How are you, Jared? How are you?
Man, it's been a day. It feels like it should already be Wednesday, but
Yes.
it's. I know you've had a long trip, and I shouldn't say long trip, but I feel like it's been a long couple of days for you. How are things? How was LA?
It was good. It was good. Great stuff. Great time. Great people. Great vibes all around. Glad to be back home. I am glad to be back home. But yeah, it was all fun. All fun. I would like to say that I loved watching the Chargers offense in real life. I just loved it.
Are you a Chargers fan?
I'm not a Chargers fan. I'm not a Chargers fan. I just really enjoyed how they ran their offense.
I'm trying to think. Was it last year that I saw the Chargers, or was it the year before? I saw them play the Falcons either last year or the year before. Friend of the podcast, Dwayne Ledford, hooked me up with some tickets to see them play the Falcons. Falcons lost, but cool, man. Yeah, I got tickets. I got tickets. Panthers Falcons, which is going to be an absolute shit show in
Yeah,
October. So honestly, I don't know. It's not going to be a good time for anybody that's there. Cool. Well, if you're listening to this, watching this, you'll notice Artie's not here. Artie is getting back from work right now. He's going to pop in whenever he gets home. Josh has been up for like 50 some hours at this point.
yes,
No sleep, but we'll sleep when we're dead, Josh. That's my motto.
right, right,
Um,
right.
cool. You got a number 10 for me?
A number 10. Come back to me because I think I do have one. A number 10.
I mean, my number 10, I feel like it's chalk, but if you grew up in the South, and I probably used this last year just because he's my favorite athlete of all time. Josh, you probably know where I'm going with this. None other than Larry Chipper Jones. He's chalk, but if you grew
Yes.
up in the South and you were born in the 90s, your favorite baseball player was Chipper Jones. That's just how it was.
I can give that to you. I can give that to you. I can give that to you.
Like I had posters of Chipper Jones on my wall, like multiple posters.
Yeah. Yeah.
I played the hot corner. I played third base because I wanted to be Chipper Jones. I didn't have the silky swing from both sides of the plate, but I wanted to be Chipper Jones.
Yeah, and for me, I never liked the Braves anyways, but something about Chipper Jones never really. I mean, he's a good dude, but I just never.
It was only a Braves thing. Like if you were a
Right,
Braves
right.
fan, which look, the Braves are, in my opinion, that's the team of the South. Like everybody I knew growing up was a Braves fan. Nobody was a Nationals or Orioles or I mean you had your stray Yankees fans or whatnot, but just like now we looked at them kind of weird. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, that's your
yeah,
favorite team. No. You were a Braves fan. If you were a real baseball fan in the South, you were a Braves fan. I
that's
grew
true.
up watch I remember watching the Braves on TBS and laying in my grandfather's living room and watching the Braves and that was my childhood. And Chipper Jones was a big part of that. So anytime I think of number 10, I think of Chipper Jones.
I think that's a good one. I really do think that's a good one. My number 10. I'm gonna have to go with the one and only Deshaun Jackson. Kind of chalk, but there wasn't anyone in that era who was really better than him at all that he did. Right. The returns were always crazy. His receiving ability was always crazy. Like I think he could have easily been one of the best players of the generation had he been teamed up with the best quarterbacks of the generation. That's just how I feel. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go to Sean Jackson, mainly from his time with the Eagles, but we'll give him his time with the Bucks too.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, Josh, we're running behind. We had some technical difficulties getting on this afternoon, this evening, whatever time it is. But let's get into it. First out, we want to give a shout out to. I mean, all of ECU is crushing it right now. I mean, it's always a great day to be a Pirate, but even more so right now. I mean, the Pirates are undefeated this academic calendar year. Your thoughts?
Almost 10 days into September, and you're still, pretty much upward trajectory in every single sport. Having that momentum right now, that's got to feel good on campus, man. That's got to feel good on campus.
Just everyone's winning.
Everybody's winning. Nobody's really hit a wall yet. Nothing's bad, nothing's sad yet. It's one of those things where for ECU, typically, by this time of the year, things are kind of like, okay, it is what it is.
You could have fooled me if you were on social media on Saturday evening, Sunday morning. You would have thought that after the Pirates started 2-0 for the first time since 2016, that the sky was falling.
Yeah.
Like everybody seemed to be so upset and upset about one thing or another. I mean, it's like last week you beat a team 42-3, and then people are complaining about the dance team or the color guard. Now you beat a team, you win a game that in the past you wouldn't have won, and people are still complaining. People just like to complain, man.
Yeah, and I think at this point it's become one of those things where it's like when we don't win, you say, I don't care how it looks, just win. Now you get the wins and you're saying, no, it has to be this kind of way. Like there's no correct way to win. As long as the score is in your favor at the end of the game, that's the only way that you should really care to win. Yes, I get it. There's some things that people might want to fix, but if you're getting the wins right now, you can still just learn from it and it's not hurting you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my biggest thing.
Yeah. Right now there's still some growing pains. There's still some growing pains. And that's to be expected. But I would rather have those growing pains and still find a way to win than be going through those growing pains, never get out of those growing pains, and then still be losing. And that's how it felt last year. Look, we're 2 weeks into the season, y'all, and we've matched our win total from all of last year. All of last year. And Old Dominion's not a bad team. Yeah, the game on Saturday, like something about maybe it was the camera angles, and I was just furious watching the game. Like I was just mad.
Yeah.
But then the clock hit 0, and guess what? I was happy because my team won. Yeah, was I upset that we threw 4 interceptions? Yeah. I didn't like that, but mostly because I knew I was going to have to come on here and talk about it. Right? That's what upsets me is, okay, I'm going to have to talk about this. Not we just won a ball game and we did what we had to do to win.
Right.
Like it really, be happy, people. At this rate, ECU's still undefeated. Shock the world. Do something big this year. I mean, not only football, but women's soccer, volleyball. Just keep pushing. Like, this is exciting. This is exciting times to be a Pirate, Josh. I mean, just looking at it, we'll get to ECU ODU here in a minute, but I do want to give a shout out to the women's soccer team and the volleyball team. Soccer 3-0-3, unbeaten. They haven't actually had a game where the team that they were playing against scored more points. So they're unbeaten. They tied Western Carolina this past weekend. They'll open American Conference play this Thursday on the road up in the city of brotherly love at Temple, and then come back home for a game against James Madison on Sunday. Hey, just like we say every week on this podcast, Josh, go 1-0 today, go 1-0 this week. Keep that mentality.
Yep. And to go along with the women's soccer, would like to give a shout out to the North Carolina Courage. They were on my flight from Atlanta this morning. The looked like, I guess it was a whole team. Sounds like they had a good time. They were all pretty exhausted. Women's soccer is really, really the next forefront, I feel like, after women's basketball. But to see ECU doing this well, it's really feeling good.
Maybe it's just part of the soccer on a global level. I think women's soccer is going to surpass women's basketball pretty quickly.
Oh yeah,
it's already more popular, but you could say the same about soccer in general is more popular than basketball, just because of how soccer is viewed on a world level. But I would rather watch women's soccer than men's soccer, for one. Definitely the WNBA and probably the NBA. Like that, and you know my opinion on the NBA. I'm just more of I like college basketball, but yeah, I think women's soccer is going to be massive. And I mean, really, women's sports in general, you look at, I mean, women's hockey started the Professional Women's Hockey League this past year, and it's blown up. They're getting crowds that rival the crowds at NHL games. So it's good to see that women's sports are really getting like what they deserve.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Also, shout out volleyball. Shout out friend of the podcast, Izzy, even though I think she's on the IL. Advanced to 6-0. 6-0 start after they trounced Western Carolina 3-0. I believe that was on Sunday. And they also beat Texas A&M Commerce. Like I said, get to 6-0. Next, they'll play at Bowie's Creek and play against Campbell tomorrow night. So keep it pushing, girls. 1-0 today, 1-0 tomorrow. That's all. That's all we gotta do. Josh, anything else on around ECU athletics?
Just a quick shout out to just recently announced AAC honorable mentions. 2 players on ECU this week: Carlia Northcross and Laura Yara. Just shout out to them. You know, obviously we're doing really good on the court, so just keep it up. And I mean, looks like we have more than just a couple of star players.
Yeah. I need to learn more about volleyball. We need to cover more volleyball and really more women's sports in general. But all right, Josh, let's get to the meat of the program here on the Boneyard podcast this week. The ECU beats Old Dominion 20-14. And it was an ugly win. But it was one of those wins that over the last 6, 7, 8 years, however many years it's been, that they found a way to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
They finally found a way to win. You scrap, you claw, you're the team that is more physical. You do what it takes to win. And ECU did that. And it was not pretty at all. It wasn't a win that was a 55-21 blowout that you knew, okay, we're happy about it. We played good on all fronts. Like, played a clean game, no turnovers, none of that. It was ugly.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I didn't. I watched it. I watched enough of it to understand that it was not a nice game with the pretty bow on the top. Just wasn't able to watch it enough to really see all of the things. I will say, social media. You guys have got to calm down.
Chill out.
You guys have got to calm down. Luckily, I haven't seen like the whole, calling out individual players on like a personal level, but at some point you got to realize these are still young men. Like these aren't your 32-year-old quarterbacks in the NFL. If you're a Raiders fan and you have an issue with the way Gardner Minshew's playing, that's different, right? These guys are still developing, to be completely honest with you. They're not going to get it right. And when you have all of these different minds and all of these different bodies learning brand new system together, it's not supposed to be pretty at the beginning. You're supposed to see how easy it is to mess it up because it is so difficult, right? And I think that's just what we're seeing is that like you're seeing for the first time that we have an offense that is not just something that you can pick up off the side of the road and run with. It takes a little bit of time and it has to mold together.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, and I want to read a piece of I want to read a little piece of Mike Houston's press conference from today. And this is what he said verbatim. He said he made some incredible throws. He keeps our offense aggressive. I think that he allows us to be extremely explosive. He made some mistakes where he forced a few things. We're working with him. You don't have to hit a home run on every throw. You don't have to force things. We have a good defensive team. We have good specialists. It's okay to throw it away. He wants us to be explosive every play. He will continue to improve. He'll continue to play better. He did a lot of really good things too. And he's very hard on himself. He's determined to make sure he cuts out the negative plays. Those receivers, linemen, defense, they believe in him because they have seen what he can do. We will continue to see a better version of him each time he goes out. And I truly believe that. Maybe it's just because I've talked to Jake Garcia a couple of times, and the times I've talked to him, it just seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. But I think he's going to cut it out, and I think he's going to realize, like, look, I need to settle in and make the smart decision. My guys are going to get open. I think if he can do that, look out, this team's going to be scary.
I think if this week against Appalachian State, if he can just put it together, just that tiny 10% more, right? Like we just need 10% each time. I know we like to say 1%, but if you stack 10%, it's less and less every single time that you add something on, right?
It's the whole Rajay Harris 1%.
Right.
That's you can't expect these guys to be perfect every single time out. Like I said, I would take a ugly win over a pretty loss any day of the week. I saw a Chance mention that in the chat. That's what I'm taking 9 times out of 10. Right. On that, I mean, other players stepped up. And that's not to say Jake Garcia had a bad day. He was still 66% on completion and threw for 283 yards. Right?
Ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure South Carolina did not throw for that many yards on Old Dominion when they beat Old Dominion. And I'm pretty sure South Carolina took Kentucky to the woodshed on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's now I know you start to get into the comparison game here sometimes in college football, but that's a fact. ECU outgained them, right? And then on the rushing front, on the ground front, look, everybody last week was talking about, hey, we're not getting our running backs enough touches. This week I saw people saying, oh, we need to stop running the ball so much. Make up your damn mind.
Can't have both.
You can't have both. This offense is going to do whatever it takes to get yards. If it's on the ground, so be it. If it's through the air, so be it. They're gonna do what it takes. Look, ultimately, good win, but it was ugly. And anybody else you want to call out? I mean, Winston Wright kind of exploded with 7 receptions, only for 66 yards, but they were spreading the ball around quite a bit. On defense, Gavin Gibson shows up again. 9 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. Zakai Barker, 8 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. And then, of course, Julian Davis with that stellar fumble recovery in the red zone off the muff kick, leading to points for ECU. They didn't get in the end zone. I wish they would have. Anytime you get a turnover like that in the red zone, to me, you got to get 6 instead of 3.
Yeah.
All right, Josh. Lastly, on the Old Dominion game, before we set our sights to App State, bad to the bone player of the week. We're all in agreement, right? Like, I think you, me, everybody in the group, everybody watching at home, listening in their car, wherever, can agree that the bad to the bone player of the week is Rajay Harris.
Absolutely.
Talked about people saying, "Oh, are we never going to get the same Rajay that we got 2 years ago before the ACL injury? Are we never going to is he never going to reach that point again?" I mean, the dude had 131 yards rushing and two touchdowns that ended up being the difference in the game. And it looked like he was getting lower in his runs and hiding behind the offensive line a little bit more. He wasn't running more upright. He was really getting into those runs and sneaking out the backfield.
Yeah, and I think that's a key in this offense is as a running back, find the hole that's on the inside. Don't go looking for it up top, like where the helmets are. See where the bodies are. Because honestly, in a lot of these, especially in college football, if you are looking for where the heads are, the bodies can easily move, to close that gap. But focusing in on where's the hole going to be, how is my blocking being set up right now, really honing in on that's a key that I think all of our running backs have been doing better at this year.
For sure, Josh. All right, anything else on Old Dominion before we throw it to our guest to preview East Carolina versus App State?
No, just to get either better, more stable hands on the camera, more stable cameras, more stable tripods for the cameras, more stable stools for the cameraman. Whatever you got to do.
Maybe do not let the school of the deaf and blind run the cameras for Old Dominion ever again. That was atrocious. That's my walk the plank. I was about to get sick watching it, but
The Sun Belt's probably used to it though.
But cool. Well, we're gonna throw it over to our next guest, play-by-play voice of the Mountaineers from App State, Adam Witten. Adam, welcome into the Boneyard Podcast. How's it going, my friend? I think you're muted.
Yep. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. My first turnover of the show. Sorry.
Hey, you can turn it over 4 times and still win. We saw that Saturday.
That's true. All right. Well, good. Well, I'm in a minus in turnover margin right now. Let's see if we can still power through and get this dub.
For sure, Adam. Well, real quick. I mean, you're here. You live here in Winston-Salem, right?
I do live in Winston-Salem. Yep, which is as most people around the state know, it's about an hour and a half east of Boone, straight shot on 421. So yes, I'm coming to you from my home in Winston-Salem right now.
I say that because I live here in Winston-Salem as well. My co-host, who is going to be joining us here in a minute, he's also in Winston-Salem. So yeah, cool.
336. Let's go.
Trey Full.
828.
Yeah,
got a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
But cool, Adam. So thanks for joining us on the podcast this week, previewing ECU App State. Look, I'll be the first to say, like, I was surprised to see what was going on down there in Death Valley Saturday when I tuned in. What was it that you saw? What was going on down there in Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the same thing that you did, and we felt the same way in watching that game. It was really bizarre. It was a really bizarre feeling because coming into that game, App had played its last 8 opponents from power conference schools to within 7 points or less. And so for that to happen and happen so quickly, we were really just shell-shocked. You know, we were staggered. And I think a lot of it was, they didn't play well. App did not come ready to play in that game. And that's as difficult of a loss, not necessarily because it was heartbreaking, obviously, but you come off that field and you feel a little sense of embarrassment, right? And so, you know, a couple of players echoed that in our post-game show, that they felt embarrassed as players. And it's hard not to feel that way when you're down 35-0 after 1 and Clemson scoring touchdowns on its first 8 drives of the game. So yeah, it was an onslaught, and it was really tough to put into words, but we had to do our best. You know, we knew where Clemson was. We were getting them at a tough time because they had a less than stellar showing against Georgia in week 1. So they were out to prove something. And we expected to see a heavy dose of Phil Maffa, their running back. And he got his yards, but most of them came on one play. I kind of felt as though Clemson's game plan, and I think Dabo and Garrett Riley's strategy was, you know, there's a lot of people out there and in our own fan base that are doubting our quarterback. Let's cut him loose a little bit. Let's let him show everybody what he's capable of. And we knew he was capable of that, especially if we couldn't get pressure on him. And we couldn't. We could not get pressure on Cade Klubnik. We didn't have any sacks, and we only had one quarterback hurry. And when a guy who's a former 5-star All-American high school quarterback with that kind of talent has a clean pocket all night, he's going to make you pay. And he had 5 touchdown passes and 2 incompletions all night. So, yeah, just a tough night all around.
Yeah, so when you talk about the defensive side, I guess, for Appalachian State, it sounds like it didn't look like they performed well. But you know, what are some of the insights going into the ECU game as to how this App State defense is going to look, especially on the defensive line. I mean, ECU has been known to, especially against App, not be able to line up offensive line versus you guys' defensive line. So, what's that looking like for this week?
Yeah, I mean, we expect to see a pretty good dose of Rajay Harris. He's been outstanding and was really good in the ODU game, as you guys outlined before I came on with you. But yeah, I'd say the biggest thing for App's defense is, can their defensive line create pressure? Because I feel like they've got the team and they've got the speed and they have the tactics to be able to limit the running game. They're still giving up too many big plays in the running game, but for the most part, they've done a pretty good job against the run, save 2 long rushes over the first 2 games, both of 80 yards or more. But what really plagued them against Clemson, and what they're going to have to be able to do against Jake Garcia in the passing game for the Pirates, is they've got to figure out a way to get some pressure. And so it's up to the defensive line and the outside linebackers to be able to get pressure with, hopefully consistently, with 4 guys and maybe 5. If you have to start bringing big blitzes, then you set yourself up for more big plays. But yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the key. Is App did a pretty good job on first and second down early in the game against Clemson, as hard as that is to believe given the score. But Clemson, on its first 5 third downs in the game, not only converted for first downs, but scored touchdowns on its first 5 third down conversions. And on the very first drive of the game, Clemson went negative play on first down, short run on second down, 70-plus yard touchdown on third down and 11. So, that was kind of what we saw the entire night. And so, to answer your question, Josh, App's defense has done a good job of getting to third down, but can they get pressure on the quarterback back there so he's not just sitting back there and able to keep moving the chains? That's going to be something I think to watch on Saturday.
For sure. Adding in our other co-host, Artie, into the chat, fresh in from work.
What's going on, everybody?
Oh, what we got there? What are we drinking?
Hey man, it's almost 10 o'clock on a Monday night. It's like I said, it's been a long day. We got a little nightcap going here. So,
well, I mean, yeah. What is it?
Little Buffalo Trace.
Oh,
the good stuff.
Yeah,
The good stuff.
I thought about breaking out my with it being Appalachian State Week. I thought about breaking out a jar, and Artie knows what I'm talking about. The real stuff.
Yeah, the shine. Yeah,
But
wouldn't hold it against you.
hey, Adam, I know you and I are in the same golf league. Maybe we need to get out and play, and we'll break that out.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We got I don't know if our bye weeks line up with one another, but we got an open Saturday coming up here a week after we play you guys. So maybe that'd be a good time.
We've got, I think we've got about 2 or 3 weeks until our bye week. We'll figure something out.
We'll figure it out. Yeah,
maybe a Sunday.
I feel like even two knuckleheads like you and me can figure something out.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I mean, last year it kind of seemed like Joey Aguilar came out, burst on the scene. If I'm remembering correctly, it seemed like he really had his first coming out party against East Carolina last year. I've seen and I've heard some people questioning, okay, is he the guy? He seems to be okay as a passer. He doesn't seem to be throwing up gaudy numbers, but what is it about Joey Aguilar that kind of leads this offense?
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that Joey hasn't gotten off to the start this year that he had hoped for. He's been just a touch off with some of the pinpoint accuracy that we got used to last year. But yeah, I mean, he was very efficient and very accurate in the game against y'all last year, and that was just his second career start. because he did not start the season as our starting quarterback. He came in because of injury in the first game and then started the next 2 games. And yeah, he really wowed some folks in the game against the Pirates. Joey's the thing that makes Joey so good is the word I always use with him is unflappable. He is someone who has no ego about him. He is very calm. He does a great job of channeling any nerves or emotions that may be bubbling up. He's the same guy, whether he's throwing an 80-yard touchdown or whether he's thrown a pick 6. And, he had a really bad one of those last year, right? So I think last year's game against the Pirates kind of gives you a good example. He throws a terrible pick 6 backed up against our end zone, and he comes out and still has a great game. He's able to really shake things off and just move on to the next play. And so, was he at his best against Clemson this past Saturday? No, probably not. He was like I said, a little bit off, but if Joey's not having a great game or he's a little errant on his throws, it's not because of jitters or the moment's too big for him or the atmosphere is too big for him. That's never the case with someone like that. He's a quiet leader, connects really well with his teammates because, again, he doesn't have any ego about him at all. And so that allows him to be someone that commands respect and everyone will listen to and follow when he's in the huddle, when he's on the sideline in practice. So, yeah, this would be a great time for him to really break out in Game 3 Saturday and maybe show the Joey of a good chunk of last year in this one, because we'll need it for sure. But yeah, that's a little bit about what makes Joey such a special player and why we love having him here.
Yeah. And Adam, I do want to ask you this, and I do apologize I'm late, by the way. Don't know if you guys have touched on this just yet, but I do see you guys have 2 receivers that kind of have some pretty good numbers to start the season, and Horn and Robinson. How do you think that App State's receiving core is going to match up against ECU's secondary coming Saturday?
Yeah, it's a good question. Caden Robinson and Christian Horn are 2 veteran receivers. They've been standout players now in their 3rd year basically as starters. Christian Horn's a guy who has grown through the program out of high school. Caden Robinson transferred in a few years ago from UCF, and both of those guys are capable of putting up big numbers. Christian Horn's more of an outside guy, can beat you deep, can be a sideline guy, possession receiver out on the edge. Caden Robinson has moved this year into the slot. Last year, we had Milan Tucker, who was a very dynamic player. He transferred to Florida Atlantic. Caden Robinson in the bowl game last year moved inside of the slot, where he had an opportunity to get the ball in his hands a lot more. He had double-digit catches in that bowl game against Miami. And so, K-Rob is someone who runs exceptional routes. He's very fast, especially in tight spaces, tremendous hands. Those 2 guys complement each other really well. But what's happened actually is because those 2 guys are such focal points for defenses, we've started to see the emergence of a guy named Mekhi Jackson. He's number 15, another transfer wide receiver who showed some real promise last year in his first year with the program. But he was the guy, again, it's hard to read a whole lot into the stats from Saturday, but he was our leading receiver with 6 catches against Clemson. And he scored on a 47-yard rush on an end around in the opener against ETSU. So with a lot of attention being paid to Robinson and Horn, you can't forget about Mekhi Jackson, because he can be just as dangerous, especially as a deep threat, or if they happen to get the ball to him coming out of the backfield, because he's very fast, very elusive. So, throw him into the mix, and App's coming in with a pretty dangerous receiving core.
Yeah.
Now, Adam, let me ask you this. I mean, we've seen flashes from App in the past, and it's always seemed like they're pretty balanced, right? Especially on offense. What's it going to take for this offense to kind of get into that in this game this weekend?
Well, I think it's going to they're going to have success running the football. And, I saw someone chime in the chat about Anderson Castle, who, again, was another bright spot in the win against Clemson. The loss to Clemson. He was a bright spot.
You're just
game.
so used to saying winning against big power schools.
I know. I've tried to speak it into existence, but it's going to require a lot of speaking. Castle had 80 yards on 7 carries against a very good Clemson defense. He's good between the tackles. He breaks tackles. And he's just a tough runner, very difficult to bring down. And so, but App's going to have success in the running game, whether it's him or Kanye Roberts or any of the other guys in that backfield that'll come onto the field. So, I think ideally, if App's playing offense the way that it wants to, it's probably going to end up at like 60-40 run to pass in terms of play calling. But you got to have success. Sometimes, sometimes we kind of go in the reverse though, where you set up the run with the pass instead of the other way around. We know that teams look at us and they say, App can run the ball, good offensive line, good running backs, a lot of depth at the running back position. And so a lot of teams will just decide they want to put extra guys in the box, 8, sometimes 9 guys in the box, and say, we're just going to man up your receivers. We're going to try to make sure you don't beat us on the ground and trust our guys to play man coverage on the outside. And so a lot of times, especially like in the ETSU game, we might take some shots and try to get to K-Rob, to Christian Horn, to Mekhi Jackson, loosen up that defense, open up some running lanes. And if we can do that, if there's without question a threat of that downfield passing game that Joey can open up, then we'll start to lean on that running game more. And so, it's a lot of it's a feeling out process with Frank Ponce, who's calling the plays, which is, all right, how's the defense playing us? Are they loading the box and we need to loosen them up, or not? Do we, are they showing us something where we can run the ball early on? So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it may be 60-40 run to pass, but how we get there could be a few different paths depending on how the Pirates are lining up defensively.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of the ball, just want to ask, because unfortunately, we do have a quarterback in the last 2 games, at least the first 2 games to start the season, does tend to give the ball to the other team a little too much. And that's something that we definitely need to work on our end. How opportunistic do you think you guys' secondary is, and how do you think that defense is going to match up with ECU's offense?
Well, in the past, they've been a very opportunistic defense. They led the Sun Belt in takeaways last year, and they were averaging more than an interception per game a year ago. They haven't gotten that yet. So not only are they an opportunistic defense, but they're hungry to finally get a takeaway. Haven't had a turnover. The only turnover we had against Clemson was on special teams. Clemson fumbled a punt return. So we're looking for a defensive takeaway for the first time all year. And, that was a big part of last year's game. ECU had 2 defensive touchdowns, and App had 3 interceptions in that game. And so, like you mentioned, you guys have, it's impressive really that you guys have been able to win in spite of the turnovers through the first 2 games. I think that should give ECU fans a lot of optimism for what this team is capable of. It's like, hey, we just take care of the ball, we'll be fine. But that being said, App's goal is always to get at least 2 turnovers, to be positive in the turnover margin. They're 18-1 under Sean Clark when they win the turnover battle. And so, yeah, that is a mark of Scott Sloan's defense. He's our defensive coordinator. Is, they're saying is the ball is the issue, which is we got to get the ball. We got to take the ball away. And we just haven't been able to do that yet. Didn't see it at all against ETSU. Didn't see it at all against Clemson. They are due for a turnover. That is going to be a huge point of emphasis this week, especially because we know how much turnovers played into last year's game.
And with that, I mean, who's maybe that one guy on defense, maybe in the secondary that ECU should be looking out for? Who's going to be the guy on either Chase Soul or Anthony Smith?
Yeah, so they're very deep at corner. Ethan Johnson is probably our number one pure corner. Really outstanding guy. He's a junior. He switched to number 2 this year. Great in man coverage, and in most cases, he's going to be matched up. Now, sometimes they'll line up. In a lot of cases, they'll line up. One guy will always play to the boundary. One guy will always play to the field. But Ethan is capable of matching up against just about anybody. And then Trenton Allen Yao is another corner. He wears number 0. Plus, you've got a couple of transfers. Jason Chambers, number 6, who started his first career game for us against Clemson last week, and Seth Robertson, another transfer corner. So, very deep. They can rotate guys in, and they can rotate guys in who all have different skill sets. So, depending on what is required out of that position against ECU's receivers, they can mix and match with guys and not really lose much of a step. The guy who had a big impact in last year's game in terms of taking the ball away was Jordan Favors, the safety. He's number 7, and he's just an impact player where he can go get the ball, he can make a big hit, he can make that impact play, and he's kind of a game-changing type of player because of he can either take the crowd out of it or get the crowd in it, depending on where you are. And then he led our team in interceptions a year ago. So he's someone to watch out for in the secondary. But the secondary's got to really fix some things from last week, because I realize Clemson's got a lot of talent, a lot of speed and athleticism, but giving up that many explosive plays from your secondary was really frustrating to see, and that's something they have to get corrected. The big plays, that's what killed App early in the season last year when they got off to a slow start, and unfortunately we saw it creep up a lot against Clemson, and that's something that is again another focal point of practice this week is how do we make sure that we're taking better angles, better assignments, making sure that we're not letting anything get behind us again.
Now let me ask you on that front, and I'm not 100% familiar with Clemson's offense. What was it, a speed thing? Was it just outmatched? What was it?
It was a combination of things. A lot of it was assignment. The first touchdown that went for 72 yards to Bryant Wesco, 76 yards to Bryant Wesco. He ran a post route right down the middle of the field, but they ran switch releases, and guys just got confused, took bad angles to the ball, and he gets behind everybody. In another situation, our safety has his eyes in the wrong place at the snap or right after the snap, and a guy comes in right behind him, where a corner is then left out on an island with one of Clemson's deadly wide receivers, and he had no safety help behind him. So a good chunk of it was being out of position or getting fooled by the eye candy of motion guys or misdirection type of stuff. And then some of it was just bad angles, maybe not anticipating the speed of that team and those receivers as much as we should have. Because there were plays where, yes, it could have gone for a long completion, but there were plays that shouldn't have been a touchdown. Like, yes, maybe a 20, 30-yard completion, not 70, right? So, yeah, some of it was what was happening before the ball was thrown, and then there was also a chunk of it that was happening after the ball was caught. So, yeah, I think that kind of summarizes where things really went wrong and why there were so many explosive plays in the passing game.
Yeah. Adam, in my opinion, this matchup between ECU and App, it is the biggest non-Power 4 matchup probably in the state of North Carolina, right? These fan bases are rabid. They love their football. They know their football. How excited is the App State fan base just to be up in Greenville this weekend, take in that atmosphere and be a part? I mean, it's going to be 50,000 plus in there. So how excited is the App State fan base just for this weekend?
Yeah, it's a matchup, guys, that just makes so much sense, right? And I know these two schools aren't in the same conference, but it is a matchup I think that should be played as often as possible, because these fan bases and the passion that they have for football and how good these programs have been historically, they're so similar. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of people that are excited to make this trip. I mean, we had a record crowd last year when ECU came into town, so this game matters. It's a big deal, and I think, though, our fans are just excited for the potential of it not being 8,000 degrees for this game. People still talk about the game back in 2012, I believe it was, when it was the hottest game that any of our fans have ever experienced. And so that might be the part they're most excited about for Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, just looking, as you mentioned, I was pulling up the weather for Greenville, looking like Saturday kickoff. Kicks at 4. I mean, yeah, cloudy and 82. Sounds
perfect.
Sounds like a perfect day for football and some tailgating.
We will take that, absolutely.
Those early in the year games, that Labor Day weekend game is always so hot. Like it's unbearable.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of ECU fans, if people that were at that 2012 game are listening or watching, they'll recall the same thing. I mean, I know there's a lot of hot games early in the season at ECU. This one just seemed like it was on an absurd level.
The number of times that I've heard about issues during that weekend's game, like that Labor Day weekend game, of people not being able to get water or not being able to, luckily they fixed all that for the most part. We didn't have that issue a couple weeks ago, but I mean, when you have NC State come in and you've got 52,000 people in there on Labor Day weekend and it's 97 degrees with 100% humidity in Greenville, I don't wish that on anybody.
I just found the box score online from that game. It was, the temperature is listed as 85 degrees. Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
Greenville's just a swamp. Like
it is.
I love it, but it's just a swamp. But yeah, it's not the cool mountain air that you get up there in Boone,
right?
Which it always just feels like football weather in Boone.
Yeah, you guys make up for it though later in the season though when
when
you're playing in 60s degree weather, maybe even 70s, you make up for it.
For sure. Well, Adam, I don't really have any other questions unless Artie did. I just wanted to check. App State starts as a 2.5-point favorite on the road here at ECU. It's shaping up to be the best matchup out of this 3 meeting session, right? Or schedule. What are your thoughts? Is this going to be an instant classic in Greenville this weekend?
I mean, I hope App wins by 40. So no. Yeah, I mean, I think, this is game 3 of this 4-game series. We'll play another one in Greenville, but this one feels like the best matchup on paper of the 3, because I think, 2021, none of us knew what to expect, right? We were all coming off that COVID season. None of us knew what 2021 was going to be. So there's a lot of unknown going into that one. Last year, App was coming off a 6-6 season, right? And so it was still early in the year, and App was also 1-1 going into that game. We thought we were better than 2022, but ECU I think was still in a momentum carrying upwards, but weren't, again, if I remember correctly, ECU had not played well in the first couple games prior to last year's game. So there was some dark clouds, I think, from the fan bases in a couple different ways heading into that one. This year, though, App is the favorites in the Sun Belt Conference. ECU's 2-0. Including a win on the road against a tough Sun Belt team that played South Carolina tough in week 1 in Old Dominion. And so, yeah, like, I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but this could be Mike Houston's most talented team since he's been there. And so I think on paper, this is the best matchup that we'll see since Sean Clark and Mike Houston took over these two programs.
Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting one for sure. I'm itching for Saturday already.
Mm-hmm.
But cool. Well, Adam, you can go ahead and plug where people can find you. Plug your. I know you've got a podcast. Plug where everybody can hear you at. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So we are we have a podcast. Our official athletics podcast is called Nothing But an App State Podcast. I co-host it with Brett Strelo, who works in our communications office. We will be releasing our next episode. Usually we release them Thursdays or Fridays leading up to game week. We do our coaches show, Mountaineer Talk, on Tuesday nights. We also post that to our podcast feed. So for anybody that wants to get prepped up on the Mountaineers prior to Saturday, you can check out that podcast feed to get all of our preview and recap stuff and hear from all the folks that are going to be involved. And then our broadcast is a 2-hour pregame show, so we'll get started at 2:00 on Saturday. So this will be my first trip for an App State ECU game to Dowdy-Ficklin. So I'm looking forward to the atmosphere.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Maybe we'll catch up before the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Before you start to work. All right, Adam. Really appreciate you. We'll be in touch, and we'll definitely get together and play some golf sometime soon.
Sounds great. Cheers, boys.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Adam. That was Adam Witten, play-by-play voice of the App State Mountaineers. Josh, I'm gonna bring you back in if you're cool with it. What is going on? There we go. Oh,
the beauty of life.
If you would quit clicking after me, I promise.
Josh, how you feeling, man? You tired?
Yeah. You know, but I mean, I feel like heading into this game, I want to see ECU do so well. I really do.
I'm just not ready for the disappointment.
And that's exactly why I said I want ECU to do well. I really do. It's not that I don't believe. I believe that we could win almost every game on our schedule. It's just, will the right things fall into place this week like they did the last two?
Right.
I just feel like we've had enough shit go the other way over the last 6-7 years. Stuff is finally going to start falling our way.
And I will say this, right? There was I mean, obviously the turnovers have been atrocious, and we're still sitting at 2-0. So just like Adam was talking about, right? Like, we are making mistakes and still finding ways to win ball games, which is a step in the right direction. If we can protect the football, I mean, my God, the sky's the limit with what we can do. So that remains to be seen, right? Because we got to be able to do that. And App State's going to be a tough out, especially after losing by 46 to Clemson. They're going to be a bunch of heated, angry football players. But I'm still optimistic about what we can do for this season.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where, like we were saying earlier, Josh, like take a good loss or a good win over a pretty loss any day of the week. Take a bad win any day of the week. They don't ask how, they ask how many, and just keep winning. Go 1-0. How many cliches can I get into one little monologue here? Coach talk, right? But yeah, just like you and Adam were saying, if you can figure this out, look out. If do not let ECU get hot. That's all I'm going to say. Do not let us get hot.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially if you can find a way to win your next two. because that's to me that's the two toughest left on the schedule.
You find a way to go
Next
2-0. You figure out a way to go 1-1 in the next two.
Yeah.
Look, we said we're not going to look like week to week. We're not going to look ahead ever. I'm looking a little ahead. I'm not going to lie. And you go 1-1 or you go 2-0 and you're sitting pretty with some nice wins under your belt. They may not be P5 wins or P4 wins, but they're good wins to have on your resume, especially if you're able to beat an App State and or a Liberty on the road and UTSA.
Yeah, I think if you're able to get App State, we've already got an ODU. If you're able to get Liberty, that's 3 of the top 6 teams in the non-American G5.
Right.
I mean, you could make an argument that if you go 2-0 against App State and Liberty, you can make an argument that you've already beat 2 most likely conference champions from the group of 5.
Yeah.
And then you go on to win your conference championship. There's no denying that would be the best resume in the group of 5.
Well, if Boise wins out and does what they're supposed to do, I think Boise's going to get it.
If Memphis wins out.
Yeah, but still going to win your conference championship.
They're going to give it to Boise if Boise does what they're supposed to do. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, the key is the conference championship. That's really what it is.
Yeah,
you win your conference championship.
Highest G5 conference champion,
but cool, guys. Anything else before we jump in? I mean, we can talk about the interceptions all day long. We're not going to do that. We're gonna get through it. I'm gonna say right now, I think Jake Garcia figures it out this week.
He's got to figure it out. What you mean?
No, I think this week we see a different Jake Garcia. We see the high intensity, but we don't see the bad decision making.
Because the competition does only get better from here, and so that's just not going to fly. 4 interceptions a game, which is
I don't think we see that.
I do. So it's got to get fixed right now. Absolutely.
Dare I say 1 turnover this week? That's my hot take this week.
It's not even a hot take. It's what should happen. 1 turnover or less.
Hey, I'll take the wins. No, I don't care if we turn the ball over 16 times. If we have more points than they do, that's all that matters.
Facts.
All right. What's next? We got to walk the plank. Or are we doing are we doing gambling corner first?
It's up to you. We can hit gambling corner and get out of here.
The only walk the plank, and I don't know much about it. I've just been seeing it. I feel like and I think I saw, was Lil Wayne supposed to be in it for the Super Bowl halftime show, and they passed up on him for Kendrick?
They were discussing that he should have got it because it's in New Orleans. That's what they were saying. So they gave it to Kendrick, obviously, because Kendrick's been on this massive wave. But it's in New Orleans. Lil Wayne's one of the GOATs. If you're going to have a rapper anyway, why not have somebody that is from New Orleans? Lil Wayne, obviously, his catalog is plenty of music he can perform. But that's kind of the argument that they were saying on social media.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the Super Bowl halftime shows, granted, you've had Katy Perry do it, but I feel like the Super Bowl halftime show is somebody that's like maybe not on the back half of their career, but like they've had like that's like this is my curtain call, like one of the highest like accomplishments.
Like it's not like in the prime of their career. It's like
yeah. No, I feel like I don't know.
I
To
see what
me-
you're saying. You're right. There's a lot of artists that they've done it towards the end of kind
yeah,
of past their prime.
like okay, this is the last thing that like
McCartney,
I've accomplished everything else. This is the last thing that I need to
Yeah.
accomplish.
Prince did it when he was past his prime. Janet Jackson did it when she was past her prime. So yeah,
Prince was never past his prime. Don't do that.
my apologies. I'm just saying he didn't do no Super Bowl performance in the 80s and 90s when Prince was Prince.
Can we get another Janet Jackson out here?
You guys got to remember this.
I grew up on Prince, but I'm not going to disrespect Prince now. We had Prince playing in the household all the time.
You got to remember Super Bowl halftimes have not always been this big thing, you know?
That's true.
Yeah, no. Give me your number one pick to be a Super Bowl halftime performer.
That's a good question. I mean, I've never actually been a big Super Bowl halftime performance person. Like I can really care. Even the artists I like, I'm like,
It's not for me.
It's just I don't care about it.
Get back to the game.
Right. But if I can be honest, I am on this Lil Wayne wave. Like it's in New Orleans. Lil Wayne's one of the greatest. Like it should have been Lil Wayne. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If the Super Bowl was in Inglewood, California. Obviously, you got to have Kendrick Lamar, but it's not. It's not in SoFi. It's in the Superdome in New Orleans. So,
Unpopular opinion: SoFi Stadium is garbage.
really,
Looks beautiful, is great on the inside, but there's so many things that are so wrong about it. I'm not going to start. Just know
you had the bird's eye view. So
the experience is the experience, but I will never go back.
Wow. Wow. It does look gorgeous though on television.
It's
I'm like, oh my God, this looks like a cathedral.
It's beautiful. Stromboli dog is amazing.
Wait, what?
Stromboli, yeah, you heard that Stromboli dog. It's a Stromboli with a dog through the middle. Comes with marinara.
That sounds like something I should eat.
Parmesan is already sprinkled on top.
Mm.
And it's like a croissant crust. It's all flaky.
Josh put on the ASMR. Josh put on the ASMR voice.
Right. Sounds like something you can get at an American Stadium.
Oh, I love that.
I love it.
All right, so Artie, you said Lil Wayne, right? And this is it could be any venue, like it's just your top. Who would you pick for a Super Bowl performer? If you could pick anybody.
I think for me, I would go. If I had to pick anybody, I would go just all of Dreamville. Like J. Cole, Earth Gang, Boss, like just have all of them out there rotating through the catalog.
Excellent one. But now we're getting to real music. We're not talking about like just famous people.
Yeah.
We're talking about stuff we listen to in the car just to get us in the mood, like get us ready, get us pumped. You talking about real music now? They're not gonna ever have Dream on the Super Bowl.
Artie?
I love it though. That's an excellent pick. Oh, I really don't know, to be honest with you. There's too many artists.
Before he got on Nitrous, I would have said Kanye. I can't do the Nitrous right now, man.
Kanye is still one of the greatest, though. I don't care.
Oh yeah, GOAT.
I don't care what Kanye.
I won't say GOAT, but like he's one of the greatest.
He's still one of the greatest. I'm sorry.
Even I don't listen to rap, but like I'll throw on some Kanye.
And unless he becomes like a certified criminal, I can't turn my back on nobody from Chicago.
Chi-Town.
He becomes a criminal.
What up, Chi City?
Once he does something criminal, then I gotta back off. But until then, I gotta represent Chicago. So
Tinley Park.
All day.
All right. That's my walk to playing. I think it should have been Lil Wayne. I'm a big Lil Wayne fan. All right. Let's move along. Gambling corner. I threw some games out here. Maybe one of the more lackluster weekends, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But some big matchups in the American Athletic Conference this weekend. Now, the first one that we got in here is more of a joke than anything. I don't think that anything's going to come from this. UTSA, 34.5-point dogs at Texas. Texas, who absolutely manhandled your Wolverines.
Dog walk my Wolverines.
Already.
I turned it on last time. I didn't even watch the second half.
Over under 53.5. How are we feeling?
Yeah, no, I mean this Texas is like legit. Like this is like a legitimate national playoff. It's not one of those like, oh, Texas is back and then they like fumble it away. No, I really think this Texas team is actually that good. Not just because they dog walk my Michigan Wolverines, because I just really think they're just going to be that good. This is not going to be a close game. Whatever the spread is, take Texas and take the over too. There's gonna be points scored in this game.
Josh.
So I'm gonna have to go Texas with the points and the over.
Yeah.
This is gonna be one of those games like UTSA. This is not gonna be representative of who they are.
Right, it's not. It's not.
Which UTSA did not look good last week either.
So it may be, but
like Texas is putting the third and fourth stringers in by halftime. Like it's gonna be hard.
For sure.
Yeah. So we all agree. Texas.
All agree on that one.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Next up, Rice at Houston. Houston's a 5-point favorite. 44.5 is the over under. Josh, we'll go to you first.
I'm gonna go. You said okay, so Houston's a 5-point favorite at home.
Which home? I mean, it's basically a home game for both teams.
I was about to say right. It's not home field advantage for Houston.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Rice outright. Rice cover and the under. Rice and under.
Yeah, I'm taking the same. Houston has looked suspect. Rice looks a lot better than what I think we all thought Rice was gonna look to start the season. Granted, they lost to Sam Houston State, but they absolutely beat the ever-living shit out of Texas Southern. I think they even went to like a running clock in the fourth quarter or decided to only play like a 10-minute quarter in the fourth. But yeah, I'm taking Rice here. I just think they beat Houston. And this has moved to Houston minus 4.5.
And you take the over or the under on that one?
I'm gonna take the under.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with you guys in the slightest. I do think Rice is going to win this game. Just to be different, though, I'm just going to take the over. Somebody's got to be different. So I got Rice, but the over.
Got it.
Yeah, I'll just say like Houston. I mean, Houston is 0-2 to start the season.
Yeah, they're not good.
With a loss to UNLV. Granted, they kept it close with Oklahoma last week. But still, I mean, starting 0-2, you're Houston. I mean, I like Rice here.
Yeah.
All right, next, Tulane, who allowed the victory to slip away this past weekend at K-State. They are now on the road. Another top 25 team.
Yeah.
This time they go into Norman, Oklahoma, to take on the Sooners. Oklahoma as a 14-point favorite, over under 50.5. Artie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the ranked game that Tulane needed to get is the one they already played. and that was against K-State. They really should have got that game and let it slip within their grasp. I do not see them beating Oklahoma. Now, do I think it's going to be close? Yes, because Tulane they're just scrappy like that. They're going to play close with Oklahoma. I can see this game being – I can see the final score being bigger than what the actual game depicts, much like the Alabama-South Florida game this past weekend. Like that final score was not how the actual game went. I could see it being something like that. But give me Oklahoma outright. Give me Oklahoma to cover. And give me the over.
Josh, you want me to go or you want to go?
Go ahead. I'm still thinking on mine.
Yeah, I got Oklahoma outright. I think Tulane covers. These teams know how to score points. Granted, Houston only scored 12, or Oklahoma only scored 16 against Houston last week. What's the over under 50.5?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the under, but I think Tulane covers.
Taking the under and Tulane covers. Okay. I'm going to Oklahoma wins it outright. Just no questions asked. 14 points.
I feel like this is one of those games that I'm elbowing Artie up in the press box saying, look at Tulane there.
Yeah, look at Tulane, 4 minutes left, and they got like a 3-point lead or some shit like that.
Yeah. I feel that way again about Tulane almost every week, especially in games like this where they go on the road into a madhouse.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Oklahoma to cover 14 points actually, and I'm gonna go with the over because I don't see that happening without it being over. Because I think that this week is going to be one of those weeks because week 4 is when Oklahoma plays Tennessee, right? That's still coming up, right?
Yep.
So you got Tulane
coming up.
They
got a whole Oklahoma's schedule down the stretch is brutal.
Right. So I think this game is like the last real warm-up game Oklahoma has. And if they want to crack the top 10, they've got to crack Tulane.
Yep.
And I think they'll be motivated enough.
Agreed.
And can I say that this next game, I was shocked when I saw the spread for this game.
Ooh. I didn't
know
you shocked at Florida State this week. Ooh.
I don't know. I think I'm honestly not that I thought that Memphis would be favored. I know you're getting some points there for being the home team, but I don't know. Like to me, I think this sets up perfectly for a Memphis win. Memphis at Florida State. Florida State's -7.5.
Did Florida State play this past weekend?
No.
Okay, so they're still sitting at 0-2.
It's 2-0 Memphis at 0-2 Florida State.
The Mike Norvell Bowl.
There you go.
Whoever loses has to keep him.
Man, does Florida State actually start 0-3 though? I just don't know if I can make that kind of bet. 0-3 after
I don't
season.
I don't think that Florida State's that good.
I mean, they're not that good. Losing at home to Memphis to start 0-3. I mean, you got to think this is pride on the line at this point. It's not just about like
Memphis is a fringe top 25 team in my opinion, right now.
Florida State starting 0-3, and 2 of them losses at home. I don't know.
So, Jared, you said Memphis to win?
I'm taking Memphis to win outright.
All right. And then what's your over under though? What's your over under on that 52.5?
Memphis can put up points, man. Like I think they're gonna win. I think it's gonna be pretty close. I think Memphis may win. then again, Florida State's offense is absolute doo-doo. Give me Memphis to win, and I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
Because, Florida State their offense, like I said, they've put up a total of 34 points against Georgia Tech and Boston College. Each of those teams, I think, that they lost to are not as good as Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is very true. Like I could definitely see Memphis being better than Boston College and Georgia Tech. And Florida State lost at home to Boston College by double digits.
Yeah,
for some reason, I just think Mike Norvell's going to have his team all right. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. I don't think Florida State's capable of blowing out anybody at this point. But starting 0-3 and 2 of them losses in Doak Campbell, I don't see it. I'm sorry. It's the same way I felt about Clemson not being, losing to App State last week at home. It's just not going to happen. I just don't see them losing to Memphis at home.
I don't see it. I don't know. You got to take a shot in the dark sometimes, and I just think that this is the time to take it.
If this was like a 1-1 Florida State, then maybe. But 0-2 Florida State, and they know they can't start.
I think Mike. I think Mike Norvell is looking for another job come Monday.
I don't think it's gonna happen, man.
Could you imagine? Do you think if they lose, you think Norvell's out like Monday?
No.
They would have to win like 2 or 3 games the entire season for his job to be.
You don't think so?
You know how much money they'd have to pay?
They got that money though. Well, I guess not. They're trying to sue the ACC right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like no, like they're locked into all their sins. They're locked in all their sins.
It's gonna happen to a better school.
And I don't think Norvell's a bad coach either.
And I for whatever reason, I think that their fans are still wanting Deion Sanders to come home. For whatever reason, he hasn't proven that he can do it.
Yeah, Deion got Colorado problems right now.
All right. Alrighty. So you had Florida State to win, right?
Well, Florida State to win. Give me the under. And I'm gonna pick Memphis to cover. I think Florida State squeaks away by the hairs of their chinny chin chin.
All right. And I'm gonna go Florida State to win outright. I will go Memphis to cover. I think the game does stay pretty close, and it's like a field goal win at the end. And then I'm gonna go under on this one actually, just because Florida State's offense hasn't really done much, but I think that their defense will be what really holds Memphis down this week. So
awesome. All right. Then finally, the game of the week. Honestly, one of the top G4, G5, whatever you want to call it now, matchups. Quite possibly this season in college football. ECU at home against App State. I see that I've seen high 40s thrown around as far as attendance. There's going to be walk-ups. People are going to be wanting to get into this game. The fans are going to be lubed up. It's a 4 p.m. kick. It's going to be – you want to talk about an absolute, scene. It's going to be going on at Dowdy Ficklen Stadium come Saturday afternoon. It's going to be a blast. If you're not there, you need to check yourself because you need to be there. App State, East Carolina, ECU plus 2.5. Over under is 58.5, which I think that's high. So right off the bat, I'm taking the under on this game. ECU hasn't hit the over in either games that they've played. And App State, I think, hit the over last week just on getting absolute dog walked by Clemson.
Yeah.
But I'm taking the under on this game. I think it's going to be a close game.
What are your other picks, Jared?
Yeah, what we got?
All right, get the easy one out the way. What's the rest of it? Spill the beans.
Shit. My brain tells me App. My heart tells me East Carolina. I've gone with my heart the last couple. I went with my heart last week, and it did me right. So I'm gonna ride with it. Give me ECU to win. I don't know. I like I said earlier. I think Jake Garcia puts it together. I think ECU figures out the turnover thing, and I think with that, this offense just wears down App State's defense. And I think our defense is much improved over last year, and our defense played a hell of a game against App State last year. I'm taking ECU to win.
All right. I'll go ahead and take the second one. I'll give Artie the stage at the end. I'm gonna go. Why does ECU have to be the underdog right now? Because I'd love to.
Keep that chip on our shoulder.
I'm gonna have to go ECU to win. ECU to cover. And then 58.5. Okay. ECU is currently let's look at this real quick. ECU is currently 0-2 over and under. App State is 1-1 from getting trounced. The over has to hit. The over has
58.5.
58.5 is high.
With ECU's defense, I mean, a top 30 defense right now in the country.
I mean,
you think 58.5 hits?
I think 58.5 hits for special teams.
It's a lot of points, boy.
I'm laying it down. It hits special teams.
All right, Artie, you're up.
Yeah, look, this past Saturday was such a mistake-prone game from both sides, ODU and ECU. But the defense still does what the defense does, and I'm not going to disrespect this East Carolina defense. I got to pick the under on this one. I do. 58.5 to me is high for this game because I think both of these teams are going to be really prepared for each other. So I'm going to take the under. I really think Garcia, fingers crossed, is going to have less than 2 interceptions this game. And I truly believe we're sitting at 2-0 with what, 8 interceptions, 7 or 8 interceptions on the season already. If that can get reversed, and we're not sitting here with these high turnovers and we can capitalize off that. I mean, the sky's the limit for this team and what they can do this season. ECU to cover, ECU to win outright. But I do think this game is going to be an instant classic. Like, I think this is going to be one of those palms sweaty. We're sitting there, 30 seconds left at the end of this game. We're like, my God, what's about to happen? So
I think this is the defining win that we've said Mike Houston needs for such a long time.
We got to get our look back, bro. It's been 2 straight L's to App State. We got to get our look back, man. This is crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm tired of being a little brother. Time to step the fuck up. That's all I'm going to say.
Power victory, baby.
Josh, anything else? Artie, anything else before we wrap it up? We've been going for about an hour and a half now. If not, we'll get out of here.
I'm good. Josh needs some sleep, man. Josh been going, bro. We gotta get Josh some sleep.
Josh, you'll
hey,
have
I'm still here.
Josh, you'll have this up on YouTube by midnight, right?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Go get some sleep, buddy. Thanks again for listening to the Boneyard podcast. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. Leave us a 5-star review. If you don't, walk the damn plank. Also, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us wherever you want to follow us on social media, Instagram, X, Twitter, TikTok at Boneyard Podcast, at the Boneyard Podcast on TikTok. Been putting out some absolute fire thanks to Josh. But yeah, go Pirates, and let's get the hell out of here.
Hey, Pirate Nation, we will see you on Saturday. Full team. I'm gonna be there on Saturday. All right, we got a full team coming to Greenville on Saturday. I cannot wait. And yeah, we'll see you then. Wash your hands, wash your butts. Deuce.
Let's get it.